better, and that starts with me. So I think just focusing on that, and then, you know, what we did well in the first half was play in transition, spray, find open people, and then it's really hard.
Basketball world just watch on a Saturday night in Atlanta? The Indiana Fever didn't just lose a game. They came apart at the seams on national television 113-96. And the most talked about moment of the entire night wasn't a bucket, wasn't a block, wasn't a dagger three. It was a look. It was Caitlin Clark, the face of this league, standing in front of her own head coach and rolling her eyes while that coach tried to tell her something. Did you catch that? Be honest. Because the cameras caught it, the broadcast caught it, and within minutes the clip was everywhere. And the question we have to ask is simple. What is actually happening inside the Indiana Fever right now? And is the most accountable, hardest working, highest IQ player on that roster being failed by the people who are supposed to be putting her in a position to win? Listen closely, because we are going to walk through every moment, and by the end, you are going to have to make a call for yourself. Let's start with the damage. The Atlanta Dream hung 113 points on the Indiana Fever. That is a franchise record for that organization. Let those words sink in. And here's what makes it maddening. The Fever were good in the first half. At one point in the second quarter, after Kelsey Mitchell knocked down a three, Indiana was up 44-33, 11 points, on the road, against a rival. They were pushing the pace, spraying the ball side to side, getting out in transition. And then it vanished. The lead shrank to 3 by halftime. In the third quarter, Atlanta outscored Indiana 28-15. By the fourth, the Fever were down by as many as 22, from +11 to -22. That is not bad luck. That is a team that lost the plot, fast, and we have to ask the uncomfortable question. When a team that talented loses the plot that completely, who is responsible for getting them back on script? Now let's talk about the player at the center of it. Caitlin Clark finished with 26 points and 7 assists. She was efficient. She got to the line. And here's something that almost got buried in the wreckage. Clark broke her own record on Saturday, becoming the fastest player to reach 300 points and 100 assists in a single WNBA season, doing it in just 16 games, smashing the mark of 19 she set as a rookie. In the middle of one of the most frustrating nights of her career, she was quietly rewriting the record book. But there's a stain on that box score, and she was honest about it. 7 turnovers. 5 of them came in the third quarter alone, the most Caitlin Clark has ever committed in a single quarter in her entire career. A career-worst quarter, in the exact quarter where her team blew the game. And Atlanta made her pay, scoring 18 points off Indiana's 19 total turnovers. So we have a tension. The same player breaking records and dropping 26 is also the player coughing it up at the worst possible time. And that tension is exactly what was playing out on that sideline. We can't tell the full story without the rivalry burning underneath it, because the frustration didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened against Angel Reese, the one opponent who turns every one of these games into an event. And the temperature was high from the very first quarter. Early on, Clark brought the ball up, got fouled by Jordan Canada near the top of the key, and Reese took a swipe at the ball while Clark was holding it. Clark took exception and waved Reese off. And that came barely a minute after she drilled a 3 right in Reese's face. So, you've got the best individual rivalry in the sport at full volume, Clark in full competitive fury mode, and then, over the next 3 quarters, you watch that same fire turn inward as the turnovers mount and the lead evaporates. That's the emotional arc of the night, and it matters, because it tells you the eye roll wasn't cold, detached disrespect. It was the boiling point of a player who came in white hot and had to watch the game slip away. This was a competitor in agony, not a player staging a mutiny. So let's go back to the moment. Third quarter, 8:41 on the clock. There's a stoppage, and Stephanie White calls Caitlin Clark over to the sideline. White is animated. She's using her hands, trying to communicate something. Maybe a coverage, maybe a message about taking care of the basketball after those turnovers started piling up. And Caitlin Clark? Watch her face. She looks done. The clip that went viral shows what a lot of people read as an eye roll, a turn of the head, a checked-out energy as she walks back onto the floor. And here's the part that turns a viral moment into a real story. What happened next? After that exchange, Atlanta went on a run that buried the Fever for good. The conversation happened. Clark looked frustrated. And then the wheels came off. Now, I want to be careful, and I want you to be careful too. We do not have audio. We are reading body language, and body language is not a transcript. What we know is this: the coach called her over, the player looked frustrated, and the team fell apart immediately after. What we think it means is the part we have to debate. And there are two stories here. Story one is the one Stephanie White's defenders will tell you. A coach doing her job. Clark just turned the ball over 5 times in a quarter. She's emotional, she's competitive, and a good coach pulls her aside and demands better. The eye roll is just Clark being a fierce competitor who hates losing. And that story isn't crazy. Caitlin Clark rolls her eyes at referees. She barks at herself. She lives in a constant state of competitive fury. So maybe this is nothing. But here's story 2, and we have to take it seriously because the evidence has been stacking up. Story 2 says this wasn't a one-off. This is what it looks like when a generational talent is slowly running out of patience with the situation she's been put in. And to understand why that story has legs, we have to zoom out. Because this is the second time in 3 days the exact same thing happened. This is a pattern. Rewind 3 days. Thursday night, Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Same 2 teams. The Fever had a 4-game winning streak, and the Dream came into their building and beat them 108-101. In that game, Clark got into foul trouble, and Stephanie White had to sit her for a stretch of the 4th quarter. And while Clark was on the bench, the Fever went on a run, dug in defensively, and tied the game at 93, with their best player sitting. And after the game, when reporters asked White about that run, she pointed to it as a positive. How that group dug in, got stops, and moved the ball side to side for better looks. Now, read that back. The head coach, after a loss, chose to highlight the stretch when her superstar was on the bench. Maybe that's just an honest coach answering an honest question. But did you catch the subtext? To a fan base that's already protective of Caitlin Clark, it sounds like the coach saying the team plays better without its best player. And 3 days later, that seed sprouted into an eye roll. And the coaching questions go deeper than a soundbite. Let's talk about challenges. A coach gets to challenge a call, and how you use that tool can swing a game. In that Thursday game, Clark picked up cheap fouls. Fouls where she was in a legal guarding position and barely made contact. There was a sequence where Jordan Canada drove right at Clark and went to the floor with minimal contact. That's exactly the kind of call a coach should challenge, especially because winning it sends your star into halftime with 2 fouls instead of 3. And Stephanie White didn't challenge it. She held on to her challenge. And this has become a documented pattern. White consistently declining to use challenges on the foul calls that put her star in foul trouble and take her off the floor. So we have to ask, whose job is it to protect the franchise player? Because from the outside, Caitlin Clark is fighting for everything, owning her mistakes, breaking records, and the people whose job it is to fight for her are leaving tools on the table. And that's the contrast at the heart of this story. When this game ended, Caitlin Clark walked into the post-game press conference, and she did not point fingers. She did not blame the officials, even though the whistle was brutal. She sat there with her head down, her voice low, clearly devastated, and she took accountability. She talked about how the team did well in the first half playing in transition, and how it becomes nearly impossible when, in her words, all they do is foul and the other team scores. And then, she said the thing that tells you everything about who she is. Talking about the turnovers, she said the team has to take care of the ball better, and that it starts with her. That starts with me. 5 turnovers in a quarter, a career worst, a brutal loss to her biggest rival. And her instinct is to put it on her own shoulders first. Now, contrast that with the coach, pointing to the minutes without that player as the highlight. One person is reaching for accountability. The other reaches for explanation. And over a season, players notice that. Players always notice that. So why did Indiana actually lose? Let's diagnose it like analysts, not like a mob. Problem 1. Defense. Atlanta scored 113 by getting downhill and attacking the rim over and over. And when the defense forced a tough spot, the whistle bailed them out. Atlanta got to the line 31 times and made 21. You cannot win when the other team gets a free quarter's worth of points at the line. Part of that is officiating, and Fever fans will scream about the whistle. But part of it is discipline. Indiana committed 29 personal fouls. That's the number Clark herself pointed to. And here's the stat that ties it all together. Atlanta got off 13 more field goal attempts than Indiana. 13 more cracks at the basket, in a game decided by 17. Where did those come from? Turnovers and rebounding. Every giveaway is a possession where Indiana never got a shot, and the Dream out-rebounded them on top of it. You give up extra shots on the glass, extra shots off turnovers, and 31 trips to the line, and you've handed a good offense a free quarter of basketball. Problem 2. Depth. Let's look at who produced. Clark had 26. Mitchell had 16. Aaliyah Boston had 13, but in foul trouble, only 22 minutes. And beyond those 3, the only other Fever player in double figures was Sophie Cunningham. That's it. 3 stars, 1 role player, then a cliff. Second-year player Michaela Timpson got minutes late and got overwhelmed by Angel Reese on multiple possessions. There were sequences where Clark was looking for an outlet, and the player she had to pass to wasn't a threat. So who builds the roster? Who decides the rotation in a critical stretch of a rivalry game? There's a tactical reality chasing this team, too. Caitlin Clark has been hunted defensively all year. Teams run pick and roll directly at her, forcing her to navigate screens and decide on the back end. And Atlanta did exactly that, putting her in actions and getting downhill. When a team hunts your star that aggressively, you have schemes to help her. You can switch more, pre-rotate, blitz the ball handler. That's the staff's job. So when the same weakness gets exploited the same way all season, at some point it stops being just a player problem and starts being a scheme problem. This is the through line of the season. They have a top 3 player in the world, and the margin around her is razor thin. So every coaching decision matters more. Every challenge, every rotation, every timeout. When you're this top-heavy, the coaching has to be flawless. And right now, fans are watching it be anything but, and they're connecting the dots. And this is bigger than one game. Understand what Indiana has, arguably the most marketable, most talented, most needle-moving athlete in the history of this league, sitting at the top of her game, entering her prime. That's a once-in-a-generation gift. And the only question that matters is whether the Indiana Fever are building something worthy of it. Are they surrounding her with depth? Are they scheming around the defensive attacks? Are they making the in-game decisions that protect her? Or are they squandering the prime of a generational talent through thin rosters and decisions that leave fans rolling their eyes right along with her? Because here's the cold truth. This team is 9-7, a generational talent, and they're hovering around 500. 2 straight losses to a rival, including a franchise record beatdown. And the dominant image isn't a highlight. It's a star and a coach who looked for 3 seconds on national TV, like they weren't on the same page. In fairness, let's Steelman Stephanie White. She's not the one turning the ball over. The depth issue is a roster problem she didn't create. And that point about the ball moving better in certain lineups is a real basketball observation. When you have a ball-dominant superstar, the offense can get stagnant, and a good coach notices when the ball pings around and the team gets better looks. That's not an attack on Clark. The problem isn't the insight, it's the packaging, saying it publicly, after a loss, in a way a protective fan base hears as, "We're better without our star." And the eye roll might genuinely be nothing. So the honest version includes the possibility that White is a good coach in a tough spot, handed a top-heavy roster, getting scapegoated for a loss that had more to do with 29 fouls and a thin bench than anything she did on the sideline. That's a real case. I don't think it's airtight. The challenge decisions are a fixable failure. But you should weigh it. And here's the part the mainstream shows won't connect for you. Turn on the big highlight programs, and you get a box score, a tough night, maybe the eye roll played for cheap shock value, and then they move on. They won't tell you about the unused challenges, the pattern of praising the no-Clark lineups, the defensive weakness that's been hunted all season, or the bench that falls off a cliff after the top 4. Think about how the truly great organizations treat a generational talent. They build depth. They surround the star with shooting and a stretch big. They empower a staff that schemes around the star's weaknesses. And they treat that prime like the finite, irreplaceable thing it is, because the window is brutally short. The question hanging over Indiana is whether they're moving with that kind of urgency, or whether a generational prime is quietly slipping by 1.500 stretch at a time. So, where does this go? Everything now collides on Monday night, when the Fever return home to Gainbridge to face the Phoenix Mercury. The pressure is squarely on Stephanie White. 2 straight losses to a rival. A viral sideline moment. A restless fan base. The only way you quiet it is to win, and to win in a way that looks connected and coached up. Win convincingly, and the eye roll becomes a footnote. But lose a 3rd straight, at home, with all of this swirling, and you're not talking about a clip anymore. You're talking about a genuine crisis. 1 game can be a footnote. 3 games can be a referendum. And Caitlin Clark, the player who said the turnovers start with her, deserves to know the people around her are going to meet her halfway. So, here's where I land. And then I want to hear from you. I don't think Caitlin Clark hates Stephanie White. I don't think there's a war in that locker room. That's lazy, and it's unfair to 2 competitive people who both want to win. But I also don't think it's nothing. What we're watching is the natural friction that builds when an elite, accountable superstar is fighting like hell to win, owning every mistake, breaking every record,